What's going on, gods and goddesses? This is Zen. A couple people wanted me to do a video on astral travel, out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming, things like this. And what I'm going to do is give an explanation of the technique and the underpinnings of how it works, so that way I don't have to tell you specifically what herbs or what elements or what things you'll need, but you'll understand how it works. You understand what's going on with your body and the body that's coming out of your spiritual body, that comes outside of your physical body, your spirit, your light body. And I'm trying to give it to you from that way so that you understand how it works. And then you can fill in the blanks for yourself. I'll do another video sooner or later on specific herbs and things like this, but I'll just give you the idea. And it's this mind awake, body asleep. When you consider that there are two things, there are two entities. One is your physical body, which is, for all intents and purposes, a dead thing. It is only animated by your spirit. So if you look at it in two different ways, your physical body and your spirit body, you're trying to disconnect the two. And this happens all the time. This happens at night. You just don't recall it because there's a few things that go on that don't allow you to remember or to recall. It's the same reason you can't recall even a lucid dream or dreams that you may have. And I'm going to get into a couple of the ideas of what crystals are, how they're used, and at the highest form, why they shouldn't be used. Let's start here. If you're cleansed and your body is completely in order, we must remember that everything outside of us is inside of us. Our bodies are everything that's outside of us too. We are a holographic projector out into this matrix. So we have these crystals in our body. Our bones are crystals. Our organs are crystals. So we have to think of it that way. But because most of us, if not 99% of us, are not in completely perfect order, we're not healed, all of our organs aren't vibrating correctly, they're not in put together correctly. They've been damaged and injured. They've been diseased. Our bodies aren't perfectly put together. And we've gone through how to repair the body. And most people that tell you how to get out of body and have lucid dreams, they just take this herb, do this, breathe, and it will work. You probably will get out of body. But a lot of people have what you'd call bad dreams, or they have bad experiences. Because what happens is, as you project outside of your body, you're tethered to the inside of your body. You're tethered to the organs, because the organs are representative of what you'd call, they're not planets, but they're moving stars, the energy systems outside of you. And so since they're tethered together, if you're diseased, and your organs are malfunctioning inside of you, then you might go to those places. You might go to that fractured, broken place, and what you'll see is a fractured version of what you might expect to see there. So you can see how people will often have quote, bad, unquote, experiences. And good ones too. And this has to do with what time you eat at, where the energy goes. If you were to eat right before bed, and now all of that energy is being pushed into your intestines, you might, when you go to sleep, travel to Baal's world. You might travel to that. And if you've eaten something that Baal doesn't agree with, you might pay the consequences in that dream world, in that astral projection. That might be their karmic reward. And you can go to all different places within your body, which is you're pushing out into the astral realms. So, if we first start with the idea that we need to separate our spirit body from our physical body, then there's two things we need to do. We need to make that body go to sleep, and we need to keep our mind awake so that way we're aware of what's going on. We have to trick our body into thinking that it's sleeping. And that's by having your mind override the body. So in every way, there's ways to do this. And here's a couple ideas, and I'll give you this. You can do physical activities. You can do things to wear out the body. You can do anything that will cause the body to become tired. And then do something to keep the mind awake. And this goes into the different plant life and herbs that you can use that can be sedative. You want to sedate the body, but keep the mind active. That is the key to the whole thing. And by keeping the mind active, you can participate there. But by keeping the mind active, you have to disassociate from whatever the body may say. So you may be laying there trying to disconnect from the body, and you might get an itch. Well, you can't itch that. You have to just allow it. You have to feel it and just let it pass. There's all of these things, and this is your body, because your body has its own brain, and it's checking to see, is the mind still awake? Is the mind still there? Are we still awake? Are we still doing something? And this is the way to get the body to go to sleep. Now, when you're doing this, there's ways to put the body to sleep through, like I said, different herbs, and there's ways to connect to different spaces, to different organs. And those spaces and those organs, I'll put it this way. The crystal structures that are everywhere all over the land. I don't know if anybody's heard the song by the Gorillaz, Fire Coming Out the Monkey's Head. And it's, I think it's Anthony Hopkins. Not Anthony Hopkins. Anyways, find that song, and it talks about this idea. And these crystals are supposed to be left in the ground. But right now, where we are, there's crystals everywhere that have been dug up and pulled out of the ground. They've been put in our computers, and people have them. So there's no, you can't put those back into the caves. So they are where they are. So we can still use that as a connection agency. We can use that as a beacon. We can use that as a traveling point. It's just like anything that's already been put into a place. We use these tools. Like right now, we're using these computers to speak to each other. It's a tool that's been used. It's been unearthed, and we're using it. So we don't just throw the computer away. We don't just throw the crystals away, because that's not going to heal you. That's not going to help you get out of the body. But if you have the crystals, if you use them, I mean, this is not suggesting to go unearth more yourself, because that's not what you want to do. But if they're around and you find them, then that will help you to resonate, to heal parts of your body, because the resonant factors of those things, and it'll help you to connect with where those other crystals are. So again, at the best scenario, we shouldn't be consuming anything. We should be consuming prana. And as we back away from that, because where we are right now, the crystals and the herbs are very useful. Now, as these two bodies, the crystal body, your physical body, and your spiritual body, and you're trying to disconnect one from the other so you can walk around in the astral realm, you have to think of what the density of these two different bodies are, because that's what you're changing the vibrations. And we'll get into brainwave patterns in a second. But the most basic thing, we can think of the sheets that are on your bed, or that might be on top of you. Now, if those sheets that are on your bed are of an inorganic variety, it might, honestly, it might have it might be holding you down. It might be keeping your spirit body underneath those covers, because your spirit body might be resonating or vibrating at a certain rate of speed, but can't get beyond that material. Because anybody that's been out of body knows you can walk through walls, you can go through different things, but there are certainly some physical things that are more difficult to get through than others. I've walked through walls and it's been sticky. I've walked through doors and I've seen the structure of the door as I was walking through it, but it was very dense. I could feel it, as if the door was made out of a different material. I don't remember what it was made of, but these different materials have different bindings. I mean, you could think of X-Men, and they put them in the Faraday, I think it's called the Faraday cage, and it has to do with the electromagnetism. So your electromagnetic body and what's inside of you, as you pull it out, you have to consider the different elements that are on top of you and around you. So one of the major things is the kind of sheet you're using. And you should probably be using an organic sheet, because you want to be warm, because the warmth helps the body. But you don't want to be too warm with inorganic things, because then your body can't breathe and you might not be able to get your spirit body out of there. And anybody that's been out of body knows that sometimes it's easy on the couch in the afternoon. Why? Because you're probably laying there without a sheet on. So some of the other things we need to do is use these crystals. As again, we can use these crystals to heal ourselves along with the different foods, because one of the major things to get out of body is to, as I've always put out there, is to clean your body. And as if you cleanse this, you don't have things that are inhibiting the fluidiums and everything that's going on in your body, and your body will be working at a higher capacity, and it'll be easier to remove yourself from the body. So what else can we look at here? Let me pause this for a second. Right back, guys. So continue on with this mind awake, body asleep. You want to do things that will cause your body to be out of juice, but your mind to be prepared. And now, while you do all of this, while you're trying to get out of body, you can go through breathing patterns to get there. And as I've explained before, there are 4 types of breathing patterns, 4 major ones. And it's your beta, your alpha, your theta, and your delta. And you want to be in the theta range so that you maintain conscious awareness. Delta range is the lowest range. I should have put that on the screen. You know what? Let me just do that right now for you guys. Okay, there's the brainwave patterns. Delta, theta, alpha, beta. And then there's gamma. Gamma comes by doing a cycle of those breaths. We'll do that another time. We're not working on that here. Gamma is for healing during the daytime and hyper learning, basically. But we want to get into the theta waves. And if you recall in my other videos, you have 4 fingers, and those 4 fingers each have a positive, and so your thumb is a positive or a negative depending on the hand, and the fingers back and forth are positive and negative. So this is why you see mudras, and they're holding actually a charge in that finger, and each one of those fingers are for each one of those brain waves. So what you want to get is the theta brainwave, which is the most popular mudra when you're taking your thumb and putting it to your ring finger. And the breathing pattern for that. So remember, the breathing pattern is mouth-mouth, mouth-nose, nose-nose, and nose-mouth. And there's ways to... Here's one, before I get into that, here's one breathing pattern you can use. And it's to breathe in the nose for 4 seconds, hold it for 7, and breathe out for 8. And that's taking information and energy from your head and moving it down into the body, and it's calming your mind. It's getting you closer to that theta wave. And so do that a couple times, it'll calm you, it'll relax you. You want a relaxed mind. You don't want an excited mind. You want an awake mind, but you don't want it too excited, because that excited mind will really do a number on not letting your body go to sleep. So again, these fingers each line up with a different brainwave. And those breathing patterns are all lining up with a different brainwave. So the mouth is bringing everything down. You call somebody a mouth breather. It's a delta wave. It's very sleep. It's a deep sleep, and it's good for healing. So whenever you see somebody at night that's got their mouth open, that's like breathing in and out of their mouth very heavily, they're probably in a healing delta sleep wave. And the next wave, or the next brain wave, is to breathe from the mouth into the mouth and out of the nose. And see, an alpha wave, this is like you're doing something that is, breathing in your nose and out of your nose. You're getting into an alpha wave, which is how you're doing something active. Or think about doing a sport, and you breathe in deep in the nose and out of the mouth. It's the different kind of huffing patterns that you'll see people exhibit during different exercises. And some people do them because they've been trained, or they don't do them correctly. But for the majority of people, the body is intelligent and makes the people breathe the right way during certain exercises. But when you're going to sleep, you want that theta wave. And that's going to keep the mind where it needs to be. And you're going to keep the body still. And so a couple of those, as I was looking over here, Calea zactecia and mugwort are two popular ones. Those are two very popular dream herbs that you can have before going to bed, and those are relaxants, and they'll definitely help you to get into the right state of mind and zone. And also, there's different aromas that you can use, and those aromas, once again, deal with the different chakras, and they deal with getting the brain into a certain rhythm. Because there's the herbs themselves that are now in the oils release a certain frequency. So there's certain things that you can use towards bedtime that will help with that. And once again, as I'm going a little further with this, the most important thing, you may get out of body and have these great experiences, but then you wake up and you forget it completely. And to avoid that, there's ways to avoid that. One is to not stay out of body too long, and when you notice that you're out of body, not get excited. Let's start there. When you're out of body and you notice that you're out of body, it's very important to not become too aware of your body and realize how excited you are, and then you'll change your breathing pattern. And so as soon as you start changing that breathing pattern, you'll notice yourself, the image, the astral realm will start to disappear on you, and you'll start to get pulled back into body if you start changing your breathing pattern. And this is the hardest thing to overcome, but it's one thing you need to focus on. So you have to stay aware of both bodies at the same time. You have to stay aware of, like, I'm out of body, but I know my body's laying there, and then still maintain your integrity of your body sitting somewhere and your astral body being somewhere, so you're able to participate there without becoming overwhelmed with how exciting it is. And if you're out for too long, you'll almost certainly forget it, because you'll fall asleep. Your astral body will fall asleep, and you'll wake up and you won't know what happened. It's a common thing. But when you do wake up, the most important thing you can do, just like when you're going to sleep, is not move. Don't open your eyes. Don't move. Don't even change. Don't change the position you're laying in, no matter how uncomfortable it is. But try to rewind the dream. Start from where you are and go backwards in the dream if you can, or go backwards in the astral projection. Because as you're laying there, if you open your eyes, it's basically like opening up a new program on your computer, and it covers up the last one. And then all of a sudden, you don't know what you were working on, and it's not as vivid. So you got to keep your eyes closed. Don't load any more programs. So the darker, the better in the room. If the darker, you want your eyes as dark as possible. Your whole body is light sensitive, so the darker the room, the better it is. How many more things can we go over here? So I think mind awake, body asleep. We wanna put a couple different herbs in our body if possible. Although, again, at the highest level, the point is not to. We want to adjust our breathing patterns to get into theta. We want the room dark. We can use crystals because they're already there for our use. And that will help us to go to those certain locations. So if there's somewhere that you need healing, maybe you have a heartache, maybe you have a stomach ache, maybe you have, and you have to know that if you place these crystals on you, it will help the healing, but you might just go there in the astral realm, and you might have something to battle there. You might have some sort of fear, anxiety to deal with there. It'll be more vivid, but then if you're more vivid, and if it's more vivid and you're aware of it, and you're aware that you're dreaming, then it's easier to fix. That you literally go into your body and fix your body. Think of it that way, because that literally might be what's happening. Whether you're out of your body and changing something in the outside astral realm and that reflects back into you, or if you're just inside of your body, kicking things around and moving things where they need to be inside of your organs, because they're called your organs for a reason. They're putting off a frequency, and they're mimicking the frequencies and the harmonics of these certain crystals. That's why they link up. So know that you might have to deal with those things. So the easiest way to bypass having any of those problems in the astral realm, because everybody wants to get out of the body, everybody wants their pineal gland working. If you're sick and you're diseased, you certainly don't want that open. You certainly don't want to do that. You'll have too much fear. There'll be too much going on there for you. You wouldn't want to be there. So, as I always suggest to everybody, before you start going down this line of, you want to jump out of body, well, you better clean yourself. Distilled water. Rainwater, too, is good, but I don't suggest that to people because I don't know what's in the skies anymore, and it's too hard to come by. And just get the distilled water or use your urine. You want to cleanse your body and get your organs clean. So that way, the harmonics that are your organs, that you'll be able to hear inside of your head and your ears, you can go to those places. You can walk down those acoustic, audible lines of information. It's just like you pick up a telephone and you hear that dial tone. It's a similar thing that will go on in your ears. Similar thing will go on in your head. This is why at night you can hear different things if you're keen to it, and you wake up in the middle of the night, because the city, all of the power is off. Everyone's got the lights off. There's no interference. There's a lot less interference. So there's less interference outside of you and less interference inside of you. So you can actually hear what's going on in your body. And then you can travel to those places. So like right now, if I'm quiet, I can hear a few different tones. Now, when I go to sleep, the focus will be to keep my body still, stay warm, and keep my mind aware and awake. I would probably go outside or do some push-ups, do some sit-ups. Now, these things will get your heart racing, and they'll do things, but if you can exhaust your body, it would be best to just go take a run. Exhaust your body, but then keep your mind ready to go. So I think this would be a good start. You guys can post beneath if you have any more questions. I think I've covered just about everything here that I wanted to. I'm going to listen to it again, and maybe there'll be a part 2 to this. And here, I'll just finish up with this. Realize there's a difference between lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. I mean, astral projection and out-of-body experiences and a near-death experience are all the same thing. It's physically keeping your spacesuit where it is and putting your spirit body outside of yourself. Whereas a lucid dream seems almost certainly to be more just dealing with a projection inside of your head from your subconscious mind. That's why there's a lot more symbolism and imagery, where when you get out of body, everything is just as you see it. There'll be certain things that will be out of order and misplaced, but that has to do with the dis-ease of certain parts of your body, that you'll be seeing things differently out in your reality. But lucid dreaming in and of itself it appears to be, for most people who have spoken about it, and as far as I've been able to tell, is a more of a subconscious, internal, reflective dialogue that uses symbolism to tell you maybe what you need to change in your waking life, so that way when you do get out of body, that it won't be all screwed up. Because a lucid dream it won't be as tangible, it won't be as physical. But in a out of body experience, you can touch things, you can see things, you can hear things, you can taste things. There's a couple out of body experiences I had where people were almost dead until I walked up to them and touched them, and I could feel them. They became alive. It was very interesting. But there's a big difference. You'll be able to tell, like, as you get more accustomed to it. People used to tell me, like, oh, you can't really read in a dream. You can't really look at it. There's all these things you can't do. And then I'd be like, well, yeah, but I can look at a book in a dream, and I can read a book. I mean, I've never read a book cover to cover, but I can make out words. And as you get more used to it, you can start to focus better, and you can start to see more and make things more clear. So I think that's about. I think we covered about everything here I could for now. And again, I'll check over this one more time and post beneath, and let me know what y'all think. Oh, here we go. As far as listening to, as far as listening to different sounds, using the computer to listen to. Hold on one second, guys. As far as people asked me before about binaural beats, and I'll extend this here for a second. Binaural beats, when it comes to a digital system, what you have to realize about digital systems is it will never be analog. It will never be an analog to something, because it will always be in a fractionated digital world. So with that being said, what you're going to see is there'll be a little bit more choppiness. An analog sound, as it comes out of a horn or out of a drum or a guitar or whatever it might be, there's a certain warmth and softness to it, because there's always a vibration that's occurring, where a digital note ends at whatever number it is. So it's a guaranteed peak of a frequency. So there's nothing bad with binaurals. There can be. It can direct you to somewhere you don't want to be, but they can also offer you a focus and a locator, so you can get accustomed to what it is to be in a place out of body. So they can be very useful. Know where you're getting them from. I mean, this has to do with just about anything you do in your life. Know where you're getting. Know the source. Do you trust the source of what where you're getting it from? Whether it's food or whatever you're watching on TV, or do you trust the source? And so, if you do the research, you can find specific frequencies that link up to things that can help you at least get into, like, each one of your organs has a specific frequency. So if you want to go into that organ, you could use a frequency along with the crystal to get into that organ to do work there. So binaural beats are a good idea sometimes. But again, let's go back to what is nature. You should be sitting outside, and what do you hear? The crickets and all of these things. Find audio that's used an organic, that has gone out into nature and recorded these sounds in nature, and you'll be closer to it. It's coming through a digital device, so it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get you close. So when we find these different sounds, we can look into Tibetan bowls, crystal bowls or brass bowls or whatever. Those sounds, you can use those instead of the computer. You can use tuning forks. It's going to be a richer sound. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to do these things where you're sleeping, but it will help you to get your brain into that position. Okay, y'all. I'm going to listen to this, and I'll come back to it later. I hope this was helpful for everybody. Cheers.